Hey,
Hi, can you do the whiteboard this time? Do you want to drive?
if you want me to drive the whiteboard, this is going to be a mess. Let's do it. TL draw. I I will try to share. Let's see, window. I've got the old one on here. That's kind of weird. Okay, Monday. So I'm not really a TL draw pro, but there we go.
S- Sweet. And
I'll share this just in case you want to drop stuff in as well.
sh-
Chat. Ooh, Descript has editor comments.
it's cool.
Interesting. Okay.
I've got a little agenda.
Oh, there you go.
Um, valley of valley of growth, and then friendship networks. It's a friend group. Just okay. I think valley of growth is a uh, good thing to start with. I was trying to describe. So growth is hard by itself. It involves discomfort, and I think not necessarily, but often, sometimes. Um, and so it's already hard by itself, but it has a lot of rewards, so it's generally easy to do it. But um, if you also have other easy reward systems in front of you, like
Yeah.
Twitter, um, then you sort of have to like make this unnatural choice of like moving away from reward systems, which kind of, I think kind of screws you up. It because it I actually
Yeah.
think this is like yeah I was saying this is like the last big introspection, big life philosophy update I've done. I think I haven't gone past it because I think I haven't found a solution, a lasting solution for it. Which basically it's like sometimes in order to grow you have to go against your reward systems, but
Right.
the whole like what growth is going towards reward. So
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like putting energy into Twitter versus, some discrete kind of effort that you want to do. And sometimes that overlaps like a tiny amount. It's like you think about nutrition, like you need a certain amount of certain nutrients and you get those from your environment. But if you overdose on those nutrients, it can be quite
mm,
negative. So it's like some of that percolates down in the form of rainwater. It's kind of a I'm not really on it with the metaphors today.
is the green bar like the energy you have,
Yeah,
the
that's
energy you
your
get?
sort of
Yeah.
because you were talking about like Twitter is um, just a place that you can put your energy, right? And it usually, when you put that energy there, it usually goes out into the world. Oops. Um, in the form of energy directed at other people, right? Versus this is like my project or something I care about. It could be, friends or things at home. But it's like whenever you're putting that energy into Twitter, it's not coming elsewhere because our fundamental currency is just time and attention. But you could say how you spend your attention also changes. Like this is your energy, and like I don't know, forget the box. You can spend your attention on things that sort of build you up and things that don't. And I've been noticing dysregulation. The funny thing is, I'm so good at suppressing my own feelings and reactions that when I'm dysregulated, I don't really feel dysregulated. I feel calm and in control. And so I've been looking for other signs of dysregulation, and it's pretty getting more and more clear. And so from that, it's like, oh, there's a lot of things that dysregulate me. And it's not just the thing, it's the amount of time that I spend on the thing. It's the cycles, it's my breathing as I'm, scrolling, whatever, or listening to somebody or in a conversation. So I'm trying to learn how to surf that wave or manage that a little bit better so that I don't get as drained. Because I drew a thing, I won't be able to find it, but I drew a graph a long time ago, kind of modeling out my energy levels over the day. And basically, oh, here it is. There's a cadence of this. Um, I wouldn't say this is actually super accurate, but um, the energy that you have, right, gets restored when you sleep, right? And you can only train yourself so much, but then based on how activated you are, it can kind of go back up or back down. And so you're riding this wave throughout the day. But if you hit it super hard and super relentlessly, your nervous system is essentially fried, and
Mm.
there's not enough time to come back from that to uh, be meaningfully useful in the end of the day, right? So this was like my ideal. It's like, oh, I'm hitting the first coffee and then second coffee, taking time out to kind of relax. But the circadian rhythm is kind of where that sits. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, are you saying this is what looks like on an ideal? This is the ideal, or
I
this
think I
is
was
the
mapping
normal?
out my day, right? So it's like I'd start off pretty tired. I'm not drinking coffee anymore, but when I did, it would immediately surge me up, because it's physiological. And then I would work and work, and I'd start to get burnt out, and then I'd pull myself away from the screen and go for a walk or something, and then feel a little bit more rested, and then have dinner or whatever. Like if I was working out, I would drain it even more. And so there's sort of in my mind there's the physiological stress, which is like your nervous system, and then there's just your overall energy level and how hard you hit the energy. I wouldn't even say like I think physiological stress is different than just how you're depleting the energy. I don't know. I think it's just like how hard you're trying to concentrate.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't made that distinction. I'm wondering, like, do you?
So I think, like, just to circle back around and talk about the growth thing, it's like if you're if you're like yellow, you're not going to, yellow or red. The value of your learning is going to be super low, right? It's like you're really just fumbling around and doing stuff. But if you're maintaining a good, and I think this, like, people have talked about flow states and stuff,
Hmm.
and that makes sense. It's like if you're stressing yourself out too hard, you're kind of overwhelming your system and it's not going to learn. And so like for me, just paying attention to how my how my mind is kind of working and realizing, oh shit, I'm actually dysregulated right now. I'm not going to be super effective both at thinking or learning, and learning to
Well,
kind of accommodate that seems to be really helpful.
I feel like the trap or the problem or where we get stuck is like if you think about the energy bars where you're yellow, let's say, and you like success, growth, flow state, whatever gives you energy, so it goes up from where you are. Okay, now there's other things that also give you energy, but it's this cheap energy, the where it's like a little bump,
Yeah. I would
temporary bump.
say I would say like I'm really not super organized with jail but I would say like the yeah, I'd love to study a little bit more about how it works, but like success and flow state, like it's psychological, right? So it's like you have a certain kind of mental state, and that gets you feeling like, oh, this is going great. But you also have a certain like stress buildup, right? Which doesn't necessarily get. unwound just by things going well. It's like even in flow, I remember watching those guys that were doing like I think it was called the Flow State Collective, and they were talking about like you need aftercare for flow. Like you need your recovery time as well, because when you're in flow, like your brain is dumping a lot of chemicals that are keeping you alert and focused and concentrated, which is great. But those chemicals need to be cleaned up. It's like it takes a toll on your system, and that's part of that's like what sleeping is for. But even just coming away from that and giving yourself time to recover. So you can be like redlining and feeling super, super good. And then the second you run away, like step away from your task,
Hmm.
you're just feeling completely burnt out. And it's like, I do that just about every day, whether it's Twitter or talking to people or working on something that I want to work on. I'm just sort of hitting the stress response really, really hard with hyper concentration. And it's what's killing me, almost literally.
Here's something that just came to me, and I wonder if it's in your model. There's something about how if you don't discharge the energy you have, that is also draining.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, which I think is like why flow. Like I don't even know how to represent this in this diagram, but like there's two ways to end up at the end of the day with zero energy. One is to sort of expend it in this way that feels good. You know, you're in flow, and then end of the day you're very tired. Or there's like this like spinning your wheels, either not doing anything or like just doing other things that aren't nourishing. Actually, I mean, I learned this thing about exercise recently, which I think is like a new thing we've discovered. But the idea that like either way your body burns roughly the same amount of calories. So it's weird that like if you're just sitting there doing nothing, you burn similar to if you're active all day. But the difference is like your body just your body needs discharges the amount of energy. But if you're not exercising, it's like it's spinning its wheels. It's putting it in. It's doing a lot of stuff that don't need to be done, and so that's part of what's bad for your body.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I feel like I'm totally out of my depth here in terms of like how this stuff works, but the the thinking is you have a certain level of energy. Um, like you have energy stored in a lot of different ways in your body, and it can be deployed and you can be activated in a bunch of different ways. So it's like if you're over draining yourself and hitting yourself really hard and not giving yourself enough time in between tasks and things for recovery, it's going to crash you. And I think there are people that do this and they're hitting it really hard with coffee. I've been that way. And then at the end of the day, you just feel super drained. And that seems to accumulate over time. So the body can metabolize all kinds of stress and terrible things. But I think for like long term sustainability and like enjoyment and growth and learning, I think more more recovery is helpful. So like this is how I visualize it. I don't know if this is even remotely accurate in terms of how people's energy is burned out through the day, but it
I
kind of
mean,
feels
I
like it.
like the idea. It represents the missing piece, which is like the way you this like either way you get in all three cases you get to the same point at the end. But I think how you get there seems to does
Yeah.
matter.
What I think is like from learning, and like maybe other people are different. I'm curious how your learning is for you, but for me, it's like you kind of want to hit it kind of hard and then back off and sort of let it integrate, let it kind of settle in and then come back to it. So like spaced repetition is one of the most effective ways to learn for a lot of people. And so I think I don't know, I'm pretty convinced that like backing off and doing a lot of little bits is better than kind of supermanning it and crunching through if you have the choice, obviously.
I think that's right because I mean I think for most things there's a lot of things where I keep thinking like and actually like the project anatomy and incident argument and many other things fall in that category where I'm like once I get started it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be do all these things. But I've found that the things that successfully grow, it sort of fits into the workflow you were already doing. It's just that now you're like directing that energy into a specific bucket. So does that make sense? Like you're sitting around, you have a pattern of activity in your life, your
Mm.
day life, and then you're like, I want to fill this bucket, and so now you're like, you're gonna interrupt the whole cadence of
Low.
everything to
Okay.
to
So,
then start to fill the new bucket.
so you're talking about like top down stuff. Like normally you'd have activities and stuff that you'd be kind of directing your stuff into, and you're like, actually, I want to direct some stuff into this. I'm so bad at this. It's amazing. Maybe I want to direct some attention into that. But yeah, it's like normally you're doing this, and you're like, actually, I want to spend some of this over here.
Yeah, and then you're like, in order to do that, I have to change the entire pattern of my day in order
Mhm.
to do that. But it's always like a, I mean, I think it's tempting because you like you look at what this box needs, and you're like, well, I'm gonna do what it needs now, so it gets done. And it's gonna be this big and life-changing thing.
Right.
Um,
You think the
but
problem is when these things are like load bearing for you, right? And they're like giving you energy back. I think that's what you were pointing out.
I think that's actually a second piece of it. I think the another piece is the um, like the pattern itself. So like, there's a reason why you do these three different things, and not one big thing. Like, in fact, if you really wanted to do it, the right way would be to take the big important thing and then carve out. Like, it has to sort of fit the carve out piece A, piece B, piece C.
Right. So you're saying break this down instead of having one big important project. You have big important part,
Mm-hmm.
or little
Yeah, yeah,
little important part,
yeah.
and you would, I guess, just I don't know how I can make this look like a smaller part of the thing, like the text smaller or something. Yeah. So just like, okay, instead of that, we'll put some energy into these little ones one by one. What sort of what does that look like for anatomy of an internet argument, or did you have something else in mind?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well, like, now I'm gonna write a book or do this thing, and so it's like, stop everything you're doing and then start this grand new life where you're doing this other thing. Um,
Mhm.
but instead, like, I don't know, like basically think about, like, okay, I spend every morning some amount of time on Twitter, and then can you just replace that with, like, okay, I'm gonna do some maintenance on the thing, and then so that actually, so maybe one of the pieces could be the project management of it is like, let's look at the list, see what's there, sort it, order it. Um, that, and then another piece is working on the website, and another piece is doing the Substack write-ups.
Project management's an interesting one because I think a lot of people, myself included, put a lot of thought into that. Of like, oh, I've got to make sure everything's in order. But it's like, at least in my mind, 9 times out of 10, it's better to just spend some time on one of these projects Like I get really sucked into the idea that like, oh, if I'm working on the wrong thing, I'm just wasting time and
Hmm.
it's just doing the Twitter thing, right?
Yep.
But it's really hard to say, I think, what's the wrong thing when you've especially when you've really narrowed down what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I wonder if like I don't know the right way to short circuit that is to just if if you're spending too long making a decision, just make one. I think the problem is switching too early because you're like, oh well, this isn't not panning out, and this goes back to the growth thing because like okay, you start putting your energy, you start working on a task, and it's like draining,
Right.
and you don't see it immediately being gratifying.
Right.
So it's tempting to switch to something that you know will like actually just today I was like, okay, here's the thing. I had two projects in front of me. I ended up doing neither, but my excuse was we're getting on this call, so I have to. But okay, the one was, um, I think one was not even internet argument, the GitHub, and then the other one was Substack RSS scraper, and so one of those would have been really cool. I wanted a thing to grab someone's the archive of someone's Substack and then just make a little semantic map of each post. Um,
Cool.
and okay, so then why didn't I do it? I was thinking about. I think it's just because I actually think it's like a low trust. Okay, so this can be explained by a little bit of IFS, I think. So imagine you have a collaborator or employee or coworker or whatever,
Hmm.
and sometimes you sit down for like an hour with them and explain everything needs to be done. It takes a lot of work for you, and then he doesn't, and he just kind of forgets everything. The next day is like, sorry, I didn't write it down. Can you tell me again?
Yeah.
It's like frustrating, and then you start to lose hope, and then you start to not bother. So it's kind of like that,
Mhm.
but with yourself, with myself. Like it's like okay, sometimes I think it's very hard to start these projects because it's like part of me is like, here he goes again. He's starting a thing, and he's gonna quit halfway, and so half, a lot of parts of me are just like back seat. So like, what's the point of getting up? He's not gonna finish it.
Yeah. I have that same thing. I think I may have it at a much more extreme level than you do, which is like because I'm sort of I don't have an organization that I'm trying to further in the world. I just have me. Um, it sort of bleeds into everything that I do. So it's like I have that, but at the sort of existential level. And the antidote, as clear as day, is to slow down
Mm-hmm.
and decide if the thing, like you come up with a remediation process. Like imagine you're a product manager in a company and
Mm-hmm.
people are constantly coming at you with new feature ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're basically DDoSing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
It's like, hey, by the way, there's this, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, we'll stop what we're doing and analyze that halfway and decide
Mm-hmm.
that we definitely want to do it. And I don't know how your brain works, but if it's anything like mine, you definitely want to do most of the stuff that crosses your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You might be a little bit more disciplined than I am. And so you basically have to learn to prioritize and say no. And that comes from the excruciating process of actually spending time thinking through the thing that came up and sort of using it not like, oh, this is the thing and this is really important, but using it as an object level lesson for, hey, let's take one of these things that you're giving me, Mr. Engineer Brain. I'm going to think through it. We're going to look through it together. and we're gonna remediate. We're gonna decide, do we really want to do this? Is it necessary now? Will it be necessary later? The problem is when I sit down to do that, I come up with five more ideas. And
Hmm.
it's not about the ideas, it's about wanting to come up with ideas. It's about how good it feels
Hmm.
to come up with an idea, to be in that space where like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be great. And that's ADHD brain, baby.
Hmm.
It's just like, it feels really good to have ideas. I don't know how it happened to you, but like for me, that was always a place that I could go um, for reassurance. It turns into a soothing strategy or a coping strategy. How
I
much of that
actually,
resonates?
I mean, all of it does, for better or worse. Um, I think like I've actually been trying to reframe my relationship to this because it's like idea guy.
Mm.
No one wants to be an idea guy.
I
Um,
would love to be one if like my ideas were great and everybody loved them and went off
I
to
think your
implement them
ideas
immediately.
are great. In fact,
Yeah, thank you.
um, I think
So are yours.
the problem with thank you, the problem with idea guys is feedback. Um,
Mm,
the missing thing is the feedback. The best idea guys have good feedback.
yeah.
Um, and so hold on. So think of them. Let's do this.
I have an analogy.
Yeah.
Have you seen those guys that they just do chest and arms when they go to work out and they have no legs? They're just like chicken legs.
I actually think it's a good is a good analogy. I mean, I call it like lopsided growth. But
Yeah.
so actually think about a wood carving guy.
I
He
know a
loves
couple,
wood
yeah.
carving. He
Yeah.
just loves doing it. Why is he doing it? Is he making money? No, he's not making money. He's actually spending money on it. Um, is the stuff he makes? He doesn't
Most
sell the
male
stuff.
hobbies.
So it's like ma playing with ideas is your hobby. Is my I like doing it. I'm good
Why do
at
I
it.
feel like I'm in a AA meeting right now? It's like, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it is.
I was gonna say it almost also doesn't matter if you're good. The whole point is like you enjoy it, and it's like sort of what you're drawn to when you're not doing anything else. Like left to your own
Yeah.
devices, if you
Yeah.
grab a piece of wood and start carving it, and that's just how you spend your evening. That's fun.
It's ironic because for me now it feels pathological. The difference was when I had a job that was something that like even though I didn't agree with the ideas there, that was something that was grounding enough that it would tear me away from my
Mm.
addiction essentially. And even Twitter was like, "Oh, I'm engaging with other people, it's with their stuff." But it's like now now that I don't have work, now that Twitter is becoming just an echo chamber for myself essentially. It's like, "Oh, I can hear myself in this thread."
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like, oh shit, it's really pathological. I need to find some way to work out the legs. I need to do squats, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is it, and this maybe goes with the Valley of Growth thing because it feels good to have ideas. I don't want to stop having ideas. I think I'll always have way more things
Yeah,
I want to see come to fruition than I ever will actually
for sure.
do. But okay, you know what feels even better than having ideas? I think seeing it through once you get there does feel pretty incredible, but it does require. That's why I put sacrifice in there. I think it does require moving your attention away. Like it requires sort of like I think it's almost like okay, imagine you're a birder, so you're looking for rare birds or whatever, and you're choosing to build something or do something, and in the meantime you're everywhere. You're by the window, and there's a lot of these big beautiful birds flying by, and you see them, and you have to let it you do have to let it go.
Yeah. But I
Um,
think the trick is not that you're going to have to let them go forever. I think the trick is once you've trained yourself to focus in a certain way, then it doesn't require consistent effort, if that makes
mm,
sense. It's like you just kind of build that habit of like, oh, when I'm, at the desk, or like maybe you close the window, right? It's like there can be environmental solutions to a lot of problems that sort of shift the
yeah,
flow.
there's something I feel like I haven't done it consistently, but when it worked, it did work really well. There's like a sense of like if you think about ADHD brain as like jumping all over the place. So if you think of it as like the project you want is this box, and your brain, you know, you get an idea here, but then you keep getting ideas outside of the box,
Mhm.
and the zooming in is like getting ideas around the thing you're working on. Like it's still the same pattern. It's just
I mean, even if you're like this happens to me if I'm working on a project. Like I was doing something the other day, and it was going fine, but my brain was like 5 miles down the road. It's like, okay, next I
mm,
got to do this, and next I
mm.
got to do that. So even if the ideas appear inside the box, it
I
still can
mean,
be a
well,
distraction.
how about this? I feel like one of the when this aligns and it leads to good work, it's when those ideas keep you essentially act as like a light at the end of the tunnel. Because I think otherwise, I think a lot of engineers lose sight of that and sort of build really big, beautiful, complex systems. But you and I lose patience pretty quickly because we keep seeing like what could be built on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's just that like it's almost like a defense mechanism. It's just sometimes it's in overdrive and then you but you see what I mean? It's like it's actually it's a pressure to finish the thing and not get because you're more excited about seeing the thing be fleshed out and building on the idea rather than um, getting lost in the like I don't know like can you think of like you were pitching me something yesterday about the a tool for the internet argument
Yeah.
stuff. Can we?
I'm I'm thinking of two things crossed my mind just now we were
Sure.
talking. One was you mentioned like having ideas as like, oh, once I get through with this, then I can move on to that one as sort of a motivating piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to knock that because I think if you can arrange that in your brain, by all means, that if it doesn't have negative long-term externalities, like it's great. But for me, what flashed across my mind was like maybe the entire motivational structure is slightly unhinged for me.
Wait, like you feel the reward just by like having the idea. Like there's
I kind of. So in function, yes, the reward is the idea, and I'm just doping myself up before I even do any work. But what that does is like it keeps you really happy until you can see the idea not meeting up to your expectation. And then your choice is to either be disappointed and back off or come up with 10 more ideas. Like it's a casino of ideas. Does that make sense? Or it's just like I come in to say the thing I was working on the other day, and it's like, oh yeah, I can build this thing where I can dump this information in, then I can query it in this way. Let me just boil that down to one small thing, and then the small thing kind of works, but I'm already on the next
hmm.
thing. It's like, well, how do I actually validate that this works the way I intended? Because if I build 10 more things on top of this and this thing doesn't even work, I've just wasted my time. But like validating isn't as interesting as
Hmm.
chasing a new idea. So to me, the entire like motivational structure that's all about like, hey, let me chase this idea, which based on the nature of imagination cannot exist the way I'm imagining it. It's just like that's not how reality works. That seems like it's based on a lot. It's like telling your kid like, oh, if you behave yourself, we'll give you a cookie when we get home. And it's like that. I'm sure that works, but it's like it's very susceptible to weird forms of good hearting. Where it's just like, okay, I behaved myself, and then there's no cookie. And you're like, oh my god, the world sucks. I want to die. Well, that was my first midlife crisis.
Yeah. The cookie. Um,
I worked hard for 2 years. There was no cookie.
well, I think what you're saying is why. Um, so you have the idea and then you're building it, but then like it's much more rewarding to just go to the next idea, and it's sort of like it kind of just sucks to like ignore your reward mechanism because again, like the whole it's very hard to ignore your reward mechanism because then what are you going off of? Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, well, the guys that like woodworking, they're in tune with their reward mechanism. Well, some of them, because it just feels really good to sand and polish. And if you don't, it's almost like if you reject or somehow separate the goals from the actual act. And like I've been circling this for years and haven't really landed in a good place with it because it just keeps conflicting. But it's the like if you're working on a wood piece, obviously you want to turn out some way.
mhm.
But if you really enjoy what you're doing, like every step is so enjoyable that you just want to keep coming back to it and working on it. So like people that are extrinsically motivated in terms of like, oh, I want to have this goal or I want this thing to be out, they, along with the intrinsically motivated people, they may expose the same behaviors. Like they keep coming back to the work, they keep working on it relentlessly, but you're not sort of outpacing what you're doing at the moment, if that makes sense. There's a really subtle distinction of like, when I'm sanding, this gets Buddhist
Well,
really fast. I'm just sanding. And then when the
but
sanding is done, I go to cut and measure. Hopefully not in that order.
I wonder if it's because like is it that the right analogy would be the person who enjoys wood carving and all the steps that involves. There are some steps he doesn't like, which involve like I don't know, driving to the store, buying the stuff, or like I don't know, having to order it. Like the
The enjoyment ratio.
right. So like I think the problem here is that the actual activity. That's why I made this analogy. Like the actual activity that you enjoy isn't like building the app like your wood carving it's idea carving, you're carving the platonic realm. That's the fun part, and you really enjoy the fruits of that labor because you get all these ideas, and sometimes you see the same ideas other people having them and you're like, wow, I never thought about that angle of it. That's cool, and you're sort of that's fun. Like it's almost like, okay, like I'm actually trying to say it's there isn't a pathology here if you look at the activity that you actually enjoy doing. It's just it doesn't have a lot of output that's like lucrative or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
like actually, I'm actually flipping. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with just having a ton of ideas and never finishing anything? I mean, the problem is like
I think the
you do have a
ideas is
goal.
fine.
You have a goal of I want to make some of these, and the enjoyment of one part of the process is getting in the way of.
I
So
wonder
it's
if
it's
it's
all
I wonder if it's better to model having ideas as like fulfilling a fundamental need. It's like eating. There's nothing wrong with eating, but when you eat too much or eat too much of one thing,
I know that's actually why I'm like you could have like in the evenings is like you sit down, you're like, all right, I'm gonna let it rip, have all the play with all the ideas, but in the morning I'm like I'm gonna pick one of them and I'm gonna sit with it. And then because then when you get an idea, it's like okay, so you know how like it's much easier to say no to things when you know that it's not a
Yeah.
forever no, it's like a not now.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm not saying no to the ideas. I'm just like gonna do that after work. This is no.
Yeah. The problem, I think the real problem here, at least for me, is the mechanism that evaluates how effective my activities are is also the same mechanism that creates the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a very there's a fundamental bias. It's like, hey, that activity wasn't effective enough. You know what we should be doing with our time? We should come up with the right idea, and
Yep.
then you'll know what to
Yep.
work on.
Yep. Well, so this is where I think the trick, one of the tricks here is can't you could I mean you can either like dampen that reward. So like I don't know, like whip yourself every time you have an idea to stop that feeling so
Don't want to
good.
do that.
Or okay, the other way is
I would come out enjoying the whipping.
enhance
Oh,
enhance
idea.
enhance the reward of the other thing, which I mean, because I think this trick works for almost most people with ADHD, which is like collaborating with another human being, because then like having ideas feels good, but connecting feels really good.
I think whatever you do without resistance naturally becomes enjoyable. So, like, you don't even have to necessarily over reward. It's just like, just approach whatever the other thing is and buckle up for the misery of not
Mm,
doing the thing that you really want to do in that moment. And so, like, that's where I landed today. Is like, okay, I'm gonna unplug from Twitter. I'm gonna spend a lot less time on YouTube. I'm gonna just kind of stew and let my brain kind of run itself out. And it's worked before. The problem is I've kind of come back to the same underlying approach before. So it's like, okay, I have to do that
wait,
again.
when you were stewing here, were you like physically doing stuff, or were you sitting with a journal? Were you just
All
meditating?
kinds of things. I think just moving through my day, if I'm working, like mowing the lawn or doing some work outside, or uh, I'm trying to remember when the last time this happened was. I took like a week or two off of Twitter in like March. I was doing other things. Um, but yeah, just kind of sitting present with that feeling of like, oh, I'd like to do this or I'd like to think about things. And it's just like, okay, we're going to sit through that rather than try to distract. It's like if you had a kid and the kid was throwing a temper tantrum, again, you can bring in the cookie and be like, hey, here's a cookie. Don't you want to be happy? But in essence, you're rewarding the temper tantrum
Hmm.
mechanism for that versus like, hey, it's okay to have a temper tantrum,
Yeah.
but we're not going to do anything until it's played itself out.
And so I translate that as like setting a goal of finishing a thing and then sitting with it, and then every time you will get this like impulse to alt tab out to go to Twitter to write down this new idea, to sort of like hear that and then but then stay with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, be miserable for a minute.
Yeah.
Hear it,
Yeah.
don't do it,
Yeah.
throw the temper tantrum, and
Yeah.
just like, okay, cool. I think it takes a lot of willpower, and I think like the mistake that I make is assuming like, oh, I can do it. Like, I can do that, and it'll be fine. And it's like you might not be able to make it through even partially the goal, but that's not the point. The point is the willingness to like try to make it through, because eventually it will change, right? You're changing brain patterns, but that
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily happen in real time. It takes repetition. It's spaced repetition, right?
The thought that just came to me is like some writers, I mean, Blair has been doing this. Like she's writing a novel, but also she's doing these like daily or almost like regular Substack posts to sort of get into this flow of writing. And I'm wondering if there's an equivalent for building apps here. I mean, I don't know. The closest thing I've ever gotten to this was the collaborating, and so like my reward is these bursts of sharing work in progress updates to the thing I'm working on.
That sounds good.
Because, like, I don't know. I mean, I think the goal is to get to this new, build this new habit, build this new pattern, and you can. I don't know. Like, how do you make how do you make the training process less miserable? I guess. Um, like like or like I don't know if you don't if you fail at the willpower part.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
Vivid Void posted a really nice tweet. He was like, I think most people need to be way more gentle with themselves. And I totally believe that. So it's like instead of saying like, "Hey, we've got to do this now," let it take its time. Let it. Uh, it's funny. He had one that says, "I can't emphasize this enough. If you're struggling to make a change, you're probably not being gentle enough." And then the next tweet, months later, is another point for the gentle self-love isn't all you need camp. I'll cap this
because
and put it in the thing.
I was gonna say I feel like you. That's why I was like I don't want to do like the whipping self discipline
Yeah.
thing because the I think the point is like in theory you want to do the thing. That's why I was like, can I increase the reward instead of just apply more willpower, like pull
Mm-hmm.
more than push. Um, but you see what? Okay, this goes back to the Valley of Growth thing because the whole point, the whole to begin with, you want the thing. If you don't actually want the thing, then you shouldn't do it. That's the easy answer. But in theory, you want this goal. The only reason the goal is really hard is because again, you naturally want good things. That's why you want the goal in the first place. But on your way to get the goal, there's all these other cheaper ways to achieve rewards. And the reason they're bad is because they are distracting you from the to distract you from the goal. They're not the goal that you want. So I don't know. I mean, I really see it as almost like a physics system. Like you either add more friction to the easy rewards, they're not easy rewards anymore, or you increase the reward of the other thing. So it's like so you don't have to, so because look, because you have like take the pie chart of all your willpower. You can either apply half of the pie chart to trying to keep the other half aligned, but
Yeah.
now you're at half capacity, or you can change the environment so that you free up that energy.
Right. It makes me want to ask, like, there's sort of an implicit principle or something that we're trying to optimize for. So for me, it's like I just want to be happy. I just want to be satisfied. It's not so much that I have specific goals that I want to achieve, but I want to have goals that align with who I am, and I want to go about getting
Right.
those goals in ways that fit me. And I
So,
recognize that there's a lot of people out there who like have goals kind of a priori, and I wouldn't try to talk
but
them out of those goals.
but so this actually this is to me the interesting part because you if you needed to if you needed to ship this app or whatever for work for external reason to to survive, that's a very different situation here. Like okay, this takes us back to the whole idea guy. Like, is it a pathology? Because if you're genuinely happy being that way, just keep carving your ideas. But I think there's something about what you end up with that feels not as nourishing as you want it to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I, hmm, I think I'm trying to answer one fundamental question. I think most of us are trying to answer this question, whether we sort of see it or acknowledge it or not, which is like, is there a place for me in this world? And that has to do with like your vision, your essence, your way of being. what you consider is important, is there some way for you to express that in the world in the way that the world can receive that and reward you for it in a way that feels appropriate? And it's such a broad way to look at it, but it really just boils down to it's like, are my ideas useful? Can I come up with an idea and express it and realize it in reality in a way that reality likes and says, yes, we like this, we want this, give us
So,
more.
so then, yeah, okay, so then the nourishing process, it's not just the idea carving isn't like the wood carving. Part of idea carving is actualization.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's for me like idea carving is, hey, I've got a bunch of noise in my head from the outside. People are saying things, things are happening. How do I carve a way through that for myself that feels resonant and feels like I've had a positive impact on the world? And so like all of these things that I'm trying to do is like pretend the world had no problems. Pretend the world was totally fine. The ideas that I would come up with would be entirely fun and self-indulgent. Ironically, I think people would enjoy them a lot more. I think there's still an element of like, yeah, but I want the stuff that I do to help people in a particular way that sort of aligns with my intentions and what I care about, which ironically or not, we deeply align on. It's like if people are communicating more effectively, they'd get along a lot better. And there's certain pathologies of communication and tribalism and stuff that keeps us stuck in cycles of, miscommunication and misconstruing,
Well,
which I would say is a feature of the system. But
um, well, I think this feels aligned then, because okay, so the thing that just came to mind is, and when in my best of times, this is what was true. Where do I put this? Where I'll put this below zooming in. One problem of making stuff is that, uh, like, let's say this is the box of. I'm just gonna draw this and explain. So basically, the red is like scaffolding. So every time I start a new project, let's say it's web app, I have to, you know, create a new folder, set up all the boilerplate, run, make the server, and then eventually find the place to deploy. There's always like not fun stuff that has to be done. I think the red is often enough to prevent me from kind of getting to anywhere interesting because by the time I get it all sorted out, I've kind of
sure.
lost interest. And when I was making games, I think the best part was when like you were making a game, and so you're already at a good stopping point, and so every day you kind of come in and like add a little piece to it.
Right.
Or even when you were making mini games, you sort of like had enough of boilerplate so that like starting a new project is it's like pretty instant. You can go from like I think like reducing the red as much as possible, or like being able to reuse the same piece. And I've not gotten to this yet. I've been wanting to get to a point where like I have a lot of my little web apps, and like or you know what I do sometimes, like again to try to minimize this, like make apps that are like a single HTML file. So it's like literally copy paste this boilerplate file, and then I'm immediately there. And if I want to deploy that, I just copy it onto my server.
Totally. Yeah, I think about that a lot. Is like, how can I make what I'm doing incremental and invariant, right? Incremental in the sense that like it can be used when it's done. Like that was a principle of like Git commits, right? It's like
Hmm.
no such thing as a partial commit. Like anything that you commit to the true log, you can do whatever you want in your PR, but
Yeah.
squash so that it's incremental, like it's complete. Um, and then invariant in the sense that like it doesn't depend on a whole bunch of stuff to come to be useful.
Hmm.
It's like whether or not that stuff gets built, like this is still okay. And I don't think you can really achieve that completely in practice, but having there's certain principles like publishing what you do, building in public makes it
Yep.
really easy for people to jump in and comment on or take the code. I think what you choose to code and how you choose to branch off of existing stuff, that can help as well. Honestly, I'm much more interested in these principles than I am in any particular project. I think for me there's like two parts of my brain. There's the part that wants to get stuff done and the part that just wants to fuck around and have my fucking around just improve things through osmosis, right? It's like, well, if I'm just chatting with people and building and hacking on things and putting it out there, like somebody else can have, strength of will
Hmm.
to like, I would like to apply it to this. And it's like, oh, cool. I'm glad you like that. For me, I have like the Chinese farmer curse of like, well, it could be good, could be bad. So it's like any goal that I build, it's like, yeah, that's helpful, but could be bad.
To share it, and then if people like it, someone else can make that and own it and deploy it. Um, and then you have this like freedom to keep jumping around. I think I don't know. But then I think this is where the sacrifice thing comes in for me, where it's like, okay, if you want to see, there's a lot of things I want to see happen in the world that aren't happening, that no one's doing them. And I think if I want them to exist in the way I want them to exist, I have to till the field
Sure.
myself.
Well, that makes sense. It's just like you kind of think of it like these, you can have whatever foundations you want. You can just layer stuff and put stuff out there, which is like technically that's what you've done with your tweets, right? It's like you tweet and kind of retweet and pull stuff out later.
I
You know what
think.
I'm
Well,
saying?
no. I actually. You know what? You know what's going on. Okay. Here. I think. Here's what's happening. Let me show you. Let me put this
Okay.
back.
Yeah.
Let me.
Thanks.
So what's happening now is the following. It's like I'm trying to go over here,
Uh,
and I'm like, guys, and here's the frustrating part because I'm like, everyone sees this, and they're like, oh my God, this is so fun, this is so good, and I'm like, yeah, but it's falling. Actually keeps falling. It keeps falling. And I'm like, oh, if only someone would do this, it would we would have the beautiful world that is promised as foretold. And everyone's like, yeah, wouldn't that be great?
this is
And
beautiful.
and we have this is the missing piece. Um, but there's something about like why these aren't happening. Like it's like nobody these things aren't super rewarding. There is this sacrifice required for it. Because okay, because if someone,
Ironically, this
yeah,
this calls for more ideas because like
well,
these things aren't rewarding just for the purpose of this, right? But when you sort of think about like you can't really show 3D here, but like 20 other things could be built
oh
off of
yeah,
this as
yeah, yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like that could be really interesting and people could be really
There's a lot of
excited for
directions
that
you can go from there, and that's and people
when
who
you sort of
own
bridge
the
this
red,
gap as well.
people who own the red
Yeah,
have a lot of. I mean, this is sort of where you have the capital, you have the foundation, you sort of have a lot of power, actually.
it can go a lot deeper, right? So it's like there's there's ways to appeal. Like maybe somebody wants to only operate at a certain strata, right? And like we could say, send this to the back. We could say like, oh, this is the foundational builder strata,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is the sort of what do you say, like go to market, whatever. This is the sort of SaaS prototype, and then this is like the stratosphere. It's like these are the ideas that sci-fi, right? It's like the world's not going to use these
Mm-hmm.
today, but they will eventually, right? So it's like, where do you want to be operating? This is like foundational stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's a lot to this diagram, I think, because I'm thinking about how the only reason that people look down on the green, people who only operate on the green or on the very top of the green is not because it's not valuable, but it's because the barrier to entry is low. The blue in this case,
Nice thing
because
about
like,
sci-fi is you can just place them wherever you want.
yeah,
They
actually
can
this
be,
is great, yeah. And then you can build towards it. So it's actually in some ways like the most valuable thing, right? Because it's like again direction setting.
no, I've sent
Um,
him in the wrong direction. This is like this is like philosophy down here, like cultural beliefs. It's like culture seems to form around what's convenient,
hmm.
in terms of like technology, what
Yeah, I mean the foundational is like this the most tangible thing, I guess. It's the and I think also like the
you could say that.
there's some gradient here of like yeah, the concrete to less concrete.
Yeah, well, I mean, cultural philosophy or whatever is like it sort of horseshoes back around, right? It's like it's not real. It's just in our
Right.
heads. But if you really want to get stupid, it's like none of this stuff is real. It's like we have a bunch of electronic machines plugged into each other, sending electronic signals that human beings are glued to screens to interpret, right? So it's like a lot of things aren't real,
Just gonna say that sounds like Severance. I don't know if you watched it.
right? Not yet. Working on it. Yeah, so I think for me the actual issue isn't that I'm working like I would like to work on stuff that lasts, right? Stuff that isn't gonna fall over or just kind of float out there and nobody builds off of it or touches it. And so I don't know. I have all these intuitions about like, oh, I should be working on stuff that I could use because at least then it would have one user. There's that famous quote. I don't remember the attribution, but the guy's like, "Is music for the listener or for the player?" And he says it's always for the player, or always for the listener, but the first listener is the player.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, if you wouldn't use your software, why do you think anyone else would?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they'd use it begrudgingly, maybe. So I think about that and I think about like, oh, I'd like to I think it really boils down to it's like I want to work on stuff that's like good, you know? Like the Carnot cycle, the sort of fictional, actually not fictional, the theoretical uh Carnot, not Carnotaurus, what in the world? Um it is this thermodynamic cycle that kind of dictates how much energy you can get out of
Hmm.
a reaction, like a cycle. So it's like one is the engine moves through this. So it's like it compresses stuff, it heats up, goes
Hmm.
out. I haven't read this in a while, so I'm completely blanking on it. But it looks like this.
Is
So you
this like
have
wait
your
what are the axes?
the axis. That's a good question. I think it's like energy versus temperature. Let's see, pressure, volume versus pressure. So you've got heat coming into the system and heat coming out of the system. And so you can compress a gas, it changes temperature, and then you expand the gas and it changes temperature again.
Is the
So,
delta between that like the amount of the energy captured or released or something? Like the delta, the gap is what matters. Like this is like some kind of bound.
yes, you want it to be as big as possible because if,
Yeah.
if there wasn't a gap, then it would just be, you're heating
Isn't
something for no reason.
yeah, yeah.
But it sort of makes me think about like there's a maximum theoretical efficiency to any combustion engine. And so there's a maximum theoretical, in my mind anyway, there's a maximum theoretical benefit or good to anything that you produce and put out in the world. And you can obviously imagine tons of engines that have no meaningful output, right? It's just like, oh, you created something and it's just garbage. It doesn't run, it doesn't work. It just blows up and it kills people. So there are some engines that are literally just bombs. I don't want to put any of those out, right? So there's a whole class of like evil things that I'll never work on. We'll just put them out here like bad ideologies. We already used red, unfortunately. And like bad tools like malware, what have
Hmm.
you. I'm not interested in obviously working on those. But then of the things that claim to be good, how do we know that they're good? How do we know that the externalities, if we were to sum up, if we were God and we could see everything, could we sum it up and say, hey, this is close to theoretical maximum or this is terrible? I think the problem is I'm using my brain power every day to like re-crunch
Mm.
this unsolvable problem
Mm.
and reevaluate like, oh, is this the best way I could be spending my time?
Wait, this is interesting because there a friend told me recently leapfrogging space flight problem. This problem of like you want to travel to the nearest galaxy, let's say,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah,
comes up
yeah.
a
I
three-body
think I know
problem
it.
where like you can either
The
send your
best time to
spaceships.
leave is 10 years from now.
Right, right. So if you send your spaceships now, it'll take them 1,000 years to get there. But if you wait 10 years, you might have a new technology.
Yeah.
So it creates but if that keeps happening over and over, like every time you start building an app,
Mhm.
like it'll take you 2 weeks to complete. But actually, if you just did nothing for a few days, waited for the next big idea. But you see, this is where I keep saying sacrifice. I think that's totally possible. Uh, that waiting is the right answer, but you don't know that, and I think you have to decide that you have to see the bird flying by or the big new spaceship flying by and say, I'm not sure that switching is actually right. It feels Switching feels good because the upshot of the one you're in front of you, the new one may be like orders of magnitude better. Um, so it'll always sort of lose in that calculation. But that's why I think there's a sacrifice. It's necessary. And I think sometimes you just have to do it. And I don't know. I put this as like lower the stakes and make mistakes. So if it would feel bad to commit to like a 1 year long project that you're not sure is going to pan out. But I don't know. I think committing a half day is not too much to ask for.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like
Well,
yeah, I, every time I've successfully committed a half day to a project, it's been like extremely valuable, long lasting, world changing for me. Like the Substack proxy thing that I've done is still it's like the most famous thing that people know me by, funnily enough. And that took 4 hours to make, like.
right.
But it was also a slog. I was like really pushing myself. I was like, is anyone gonna use this? This is silly. This is stupid. I almost quit multiple times. I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna finish it, put it out there. Who cares? And
Yeah.
no, yeah.
I
But
mean,
other
if
stuff I
anything,
finished. Yeah.
what I'm taking from that story is like there's tremendous value in focusing and driving through to completion. And that's something to practice and work on in small ways and eventually grow out something larger rather than, hey, I'm going to go slay the biggest dragon I can find.
Yes. Yeah, I think almost we should celebrate completion of the thing, even if no one else, even if the tool doesn't go anywhere. Um,
Absolutely.
maybe, yeah. I was gonna say, do you think I'm thinking about like things for next time? We usually do the agenda at the beginning, but I'm wondering now that we're here and
Yeah.
I have to drop off soon, but I wanna.
Hmm.
Are
No
there things
worries.
you're like are now that we've sort of like juiced the brains a little bit? Are there things you're thinking about that you wanna explore?
I think what I'd like to do, like I know one time you wanted to go through like a desk
Mm,
view thing. We haven't
yeah,
done that yet. That could be cool. I think one thing I'd like to do is to treat it as like a triage or sparring session of like, hey, here's the ideas that I've come up with, right? That I want to work on. Let's
yeah,
tear them apart
yeah,
and
yeah.
try to see, what shreds do we get out of these that are interesting.
I think this would be really cool, and I'll show you this while we're here. I think you've already seen the defend. Maybe you have or haven't the defender version, but there is. Click on this guy. This is my. Is it clickable? Maybe you click
Somewhere.
the top right. Yeah. This is my like open to do list. Um, like the Omar one is like the serious. The top two aren't very fleshed out yet. Um, this one's more fleshed
Medieval
out.
pudding.
Click on that. Pudding is a website. They're a
Oh, right,
really
right, right.
cool
Yeah.
digital magazine. Yeah. So this is actually pretty fleshed out project that it's like kind of sitting there. I think if finishing this would it's gonna change the world. It's gonna be world changing. It's definitely gonna go viral, and it's going to be really cool research. I think prototype. There's a lot here that is big. But it's also just kind of sitting there, and but it's partially because I'm like if I spend like a few days or a week making this, what am I losing? Do I lose something by like computing the next big thing, you know?
Well, somebody's got to do it.
And this is actually where like again in the ORI, and I sort of was trying to find. I would love to find someone where because this is what I was doing with the Code Day students, which again I can tell you about more next time. But where I had them, they each had an assigned project, and I'd like meet with them once a week, and I'd be like, "How's it going?" And they were like writing little blogs about their progress, and I could check in, and
Pretty
that was pretty
effective.
great. I think the pattern is good. I think I could have done a better job scoping the project um, for the specific like cohort. But I want to
Makes
try it
sense.
again because I think if you find like the right person, the right project, it'd be pretty huge. And then the idea is that they would then publish it under their own name, and then like if it blows up, it's good. It's for them, and then they have that piece, um, for job searching, and then they find a job, and then it's like this beautiful thing, and then you just keep repeating that. So that's really what I. So I don't know,
Sounds
but
great.
is this cheating? Like instead of building things, you just kind of uh, find people to
Cheating
build
at
things.
what?
Well, okay, I actually think you lose some. I think this might be like a really good way to like be hyper productive because that's what a good manager is. Like you have a team of people and you're checking in each one of them an hour a day, and then you could have like hundreds of projects shipped and beautiful, and you're elevating people. So it's all good. But I do think there's something. I think the closer you are to the metal, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. I don't know. There's
It comes back to what do you want? Why do you care how it gets done? What part of
I
you?
I do think like managers who lose touch with like I think you should be able to dip down to the fundamental building level because then when people are like, "Oh, this is not possible. It's too hard," or whatever, or it's taking so long, and you don't know you don't know what they don't know. Like maybe they're right, maybe they're not.
Right.
So yeah, if you can tell them exactly how to build it, just tell them. But if you can't, you could go down try to build it yourself. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it
I
depends
yeah.
on what type of organization you're trying to build. It's like if you're, I don't know, people have different things that they say about like Elon and stuff, but it's like you can never know as much as multiple people
Hmm.
who have spent, their lifetime studying things, and yet you can appreciatively approach what they're arguing or what they're saying, right? So like I think it really hinges on how do you want to spend your time more than it hinges on what I don't know. I'm hearing like a fear of like, oh,
Well,
if I go in that direction, I'm going to be like the managers that are out of touch, and then
yeah.
everything's going to fall apart. It's like there's
I
a lot of
mean,
other things that they had to do to get there.
yeah. I do like I because I heard this about Elon Musk in particular, like his
Mm.
kind of superpower is the ability to drop down when necessary. But he's not like sitting around coding, but he is um,
I'd love
sitting
to
down
get
with the
some
engineers.
stats. It's like
Yeah.
how many times does he drop down? Because like, is it true that he really cut the wires at one of the data centers? Like,
See, this is funny because like this is where like, and this is a good general topic that I like to talk about a lot, but the
yeah,
voluntary transparency, which in there's like there's like a hostile version of it where like you're like trying to get like a whisper network to like tell you what the CEO actually is like and he doesn't want you to know. But then
right,
there's stuff that's like actually true that helps the CEO that we can
right,
find truthfully and then like because for me here I have there's like a coworker I worked with who I don't remember if he was in the room or if he knows someone who was in the room, but he was telling me that story about Elon Musk about him coming down to, and he wasn't a very high engineer. He was just like a normal
mm,
working on a specific thing, and he was like, okay, well, Elon Musk's here. He's like, how does this work? And he was asking good questions. That was the gist of it is that he understood enough of like I don't know the database or whatever it is they're working on.
right.
Um, but yeah, how often do you like that's an answerable question is what I'm trying to say, and it actually would make Elon Musk look good, and we can find out the truth. Like people can see, you can hear rumors, but then if you find people within your network that know the answer, uh,
Interesting. Yeah, I mean the way like I look at that story is like he's able to make these broad, brash decisions because he has a network of people who will clean up the mess.
mm,
And I don't think he's micromanaging how they clean up the mess. I don't think he's like, oh, here's how you're going to implement the fix or do the cutover. I think he has whatever a sense of what's possible in mind, and he just asks for it, and then it lands wherever it lands, and he deals with it. And he's made like, was it 20 predictions about self-driving that
hmm
haven't come true? And it's like he does whatever he can get away with, and that's uh, something tells me that's necessary to make it to that level in our world. It's like if you're constantly thinking and rethinking your individual
mm.
decisions, you're just going to be too bottlenecked on making decisions.
Yeah,
And
there's
I
actually
think
something, yeah,
this
where like
the skill of growth is like making a decision and then living with the consequences and
right.
reintegrating.
There's someone who was running a company. She had like a 0% attrition rate of like the people she hired, and she was pretty
Wow.
proud of that. And but then people above her were like, "This is bad." She's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, if you're getting that high of a success rate, you could go faster. So it's like you should, or like you're spending too many resources, I guess, ensuring that everyone is the perfect fit." Um,
Yeah, and that like that's the fundamental thing is like you have business as I'll have this be like the last thing, but like you have business as these different mechanisms. It's like, how do you want to live and grow, right? It's like, do you want to do the sustainable thing, right? Where you're just like, oh yeah, we're just kind of going along. That's fine. Or do you want to try to do the crazy things? Like maybe we'll make it, or maybe we'll completely fizzle out. Or are you trying to play some other like cyclical game?
Hmm. Yeah, this wouldn't have
Right,
been said that way if it was a bootstrap, but this was like a VC.
right, right.
Mm,
And like
yeah.
those assumptions are baked in, right? It's like if you're trying to make it in a certain way, right? But it's like it's these ones that are willing to make the huge bets that are going to rule the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
So,
was thinking this is a it comes up in, I don't know if you watch Predictive History.
mm-mm.
He he explains this as the dynamic of like why the world is broken, where but it's the same criticism that's been given for like what is it called, what's the hack, what's YC Combinator, the thing where like they don't care about their will. It's sort of the way the numbers work out is that it's bad for you to take this risk because you're probably going to not make it, but it's good for them to make the risk because someone in their portfolio is going to make it. Um,
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. And I think like the one thing that we don't really talk about, strangely enough, here is like culture. It's like startups have been blown up by culture and particularly like our if we can call it that, our culture as engineers. And
mhm,
it's like become idolized as like this is the way that it should
mhm,
go.
mhm, mhm.
And it's not totally true. I mean, it's one way, but it's like when the cultural narratives are such that it's idolized and there's no pushback. That's why like when people are like blowing up on Twitter with negativity, I'm like, is this necessary? I think this is necessary for the cultural brain to sort of work itself out. The like the vitriol and the extremeness. I would love to have conversations that are stable and we get to the bottom of things. But I don't think these platforms can sustain type 2 thinking.
Well, actually, this is a good place to end and a good sort of question for next time because that's
Yeah,
the vision of an ambient internet argument is that we can't shift that.
yeah.
And I have a secret plan for how to get
Well,
there.
I think we can. The question is like you're always going to have players who want to find hacks and loopholes in the
Right,
system.
but it's gonna be a self-correcting system. It's okay.
I believe it.
I want to pitch that next time.
Okay,
Uh,
sounds
all
good.
right,
Looking forward to it.
good call. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Fun. Yeah, have a good week. I will catch you next week.
Okay, bye.
Cheers. Bye.